Welcome to the show, everyone. Welcome to West Coast Women Rising. I'm Flizanes, and joined with me today is Tawney Noriega. We're going to have a deep and hard conversation.
We got
Yes,
on and we are just on fire. Sit
already.
and drop your shoulders, take a breath because it might get wild. What are we talking about today?
We're talking about this idea that I had around, and I was in Sedona and I was speaking. And I can tell you that I think you mentioned it on a former podcast that, even at like live at your meetings, you still get nervous. And I can honestly say that over time, I do that. I speak all the time on the podcast and in person. And for the most part, I don't get nervous. I get excited about what I'm going to talk about. We're going to do work. But I also learned by being in Sedona last week that when it's my community, my tribe, yeah, there's nothing to be nervous about. There ain't no like and trust me. So I'm walking into a group of people who are already like, yeah, let's get to work. And so whatever comes up, I can just channel, I can be with them. However, I was doing two 10-minute presentations in front of other leaders and business owners that were also doing presentations. And I definitely was super nervous about, and there was no one I was performing for. I was doing this for myself. So it didn't matter if I failed, if I exceeded, if I like, in fact, I'm the only person who didn't have to cut anything. Some people like memorize their talks and the screen didn't work and they had to go back and repeat. And I like kind of flew by the seat of my pants, which is what I like to do, and just sort of channel whatever I'm interested in the moment and be a good problem solver and figure that out. So I thought to myself, this is where people feel like becoming vulnerable among other women is dangerous. I heard it from a client of mine that said, I never had women friends because I wasn't taught to be friends with women because you break them down. You don't connect. And then a couple other things that happened. And I thought, let's talk about that on the show. And it's going to be intertwined with a couple other ideas. Like, so what Tawny and we got on this recording today. And before I even hit record, we were just going. And I said, hold on, cut. We need to put this on the podcast because it's about the deep inner work that whether or not you're that interested in it, you're coming to the show, you're listening to this episode. By the time you get to this episode, you've heard a couple of these already. So if you're still here, congratulations. And if you're just getting here, welcome. We are about business and personal growth together. Period. End of story. There are important things in business that people do need to learn. Like I'll give aside for a second. There are a lot of people that have really great social media presences, thousands and thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of followers. And let me tell you, it performs like shit when you're trying to do a launch and get people on an email list. I was horrified by the lack of people interested because people are doing social media aren't doing emails. And let me tell you, you need to learn how to do an email because as a business owner, that's someone who's super committed and interested in what you're doing. And those are the people that you sell to. So, there are business strategies we need to talk about on the show to help you make money and build the audience that you can then continue to help and be with for years to come. That's why I have a podcast because people have been with me for literally 10 years. People in my programs. In fact, okay, oh, wait, that is attached. I I interviewed some of my clients last night for a program that I do, and my longest client, who's been with me 14 years, today she writes me a text this morning and says, I wish I thought about saying this last night when we were taping. The reason after all of these years with you, I still find so much value in your programs is that growth is not stagnant. There's always something more to learn about yourself, and having a community to do it with is ideal. She's literally done not every program, but next year she's signing up for two. I already know before we go to the live event next week, she's signing up for two programs, a 3-month and a 9-month program. And she'll be doing the 3 and the 9 at the same time. Because I built a situation and I've attracted people that are interested in this conversation. So this podcast, your business, whether you have a podcast or not, the goal, the aim is always to attract the kinds of people who are interested in your zone of genius, in what you're helping people do in the world, and even your journey. Maybe they want to model you. Maybe they just want to see what you're doing. They're curious, they're interested, and then you pull them in. And you can pull them in many different ways. For us, this podcast is about marrying and creating alchemy around money and business, as well as self-growth, and how we think that at the end of the day, because again, in law of attraction, famous quote from Abraham says, the only reason you want what you want is you think you'll feel better when you have it. The goal's the feeling, no matter what it is, money, relationships, success, you're all chasing a feeling. So let's talk about the feelings. So today's topic is why women are dangerous. Why women are dangerous and how we mirror each other and then don't want to deal with it. So Tawny, what do you got to say about that?
Oh, I love that. How we mirror each other, but yet we don't want to deal with that. So let's dive in and unpack that a little bit. We're taking in the case of this conversation, the stance that we're all mirroring each other. Me and JJ mirror each other. Those that are listening into this podcast, there's something JJ and I and the community members of the podcast that are on here, we're all mirroring back something with inside of yourself, the person that's listening, right? Um, Now, the way I look at it is people can mirror the good, people can mirror the bad, and I'm using those words lightly to generalize, right? So the conversation, how me and JJ started this morning, it was just like rapid fired. What we were getting into is, for example, this podcast, our energy, my energy versus JJ energy is different. We complement each other very well, but it's different energy. I think I'm a little bit like grounded. I'm a little bit more calm, kind of take the back seat. Um, and that also is kind of coming from a place of I'm learning my footing still. I'm still learning how to like speak up, be confident, be clear, take freaking charge like a boss without all of the crap about it, that I'm being too pushy, aggressive, I'm blunt, people won't like me, etc. And so my way in perspective with JJ, she's very confident in who she is. She's very clear. And there's a lot of stuff she explains about her, even her chart, where it is just natural for her to show up and take charge with leadership and trying to do it with like heart and intention so that other people can really have a freaking life that they love. And so on one hand, I might trigger people when, by things that I say or because of my perspectives or how I communicate, or if I say bad words, like that might trigger people. Or, I do tend to trigger people that I tend to bring a lot of personal stuff into business. That could be a trigger for people. And so when we get into these conversations, there's this aspect of whatever's happening in that other person, quote unquote, the trigger. We're kind of making the case here that it's the individual's job to like kind of be responsible for that. I want to take a breath here and kind of pass it over to you, JJ. Tell me some things. What are you thinking?
Well, I want to share what we kind of got on a tangent about before I pressed record. So I was just teaching the podcast course, and one of the members that was on that course had said to me, "Oh, I've been listening to the podcast, and I have to tell you that I wasn't sure if you were for me." And but I have to say that when I got to the hard conversation episode, the way that you were talking about it, she's like, it really made me realize that I was projecting and how I wasn't being for me. And so then I really got, oh, okay. Thank you. She said, thank you for that. And I'm glad that she said that because it also reminded me of the projection aspect, right? We often kill the messenger, right? We kill the messenger because we don't like the way it's delivered. We don't like the way it's packaged. We don't like what it looks like, and we miss it. We miss what's inside because we're not at an observer standpoint. We're resonating with and reacting to. In fact, so I recently was signed with a literary agent, which is very exciting. And I'm working on the book. And she read the book and she came back to me and she said, I'm confused. I don't know if it's an autobiography or if it's an help-to book. I said, well, it's both. She's like, then I need a bridge chapter. So I had to write another bridge chapter. And now I'm like feverishly trying to finish the book to get it to a certain word count so she can go and sell it to a publisher. And in the process of writing this book, and in the process of sort of evaluating what I want to have in it, I've asked a couple of clients of mine, one in particular, who is someone who did not meet me from my podcast. She is someone who, unless I met her, there was no way she would have been attracted to someone like me. In fact, when I met her, someone else said to her, are you sure that JJ is the person you want to do this with? She's a little intense. I have people who are a little more gentle. And she said, I've done gentle for 20 years and I haven't had any results. I think JJ has what I need, whether I like it or not. And so she recently said, after 9 months in a program, has said, I understand now why people do multiple things with you because, yes, 9 months with me has superseded 20 years of therapy. And she is now different than she has ever been in her entire life. And she's going to be at my live event, and I think she's going to continue doing stuff. But here's the thing, it's about the message. The message was for this person who's literally been doing things that are more, quote unquote, more comfortable. Oh, yeah, someone who affirms you. Oh, that's so terrible. Oh, I understand that must have been awful for you, right? Has led her down no path, no path. It has not changed one iota of how she sees herself in the world. And during my 9 month program in the astrology course, she finally felt a certain sense of validation that she's not broken, that this is part of who she's meant to be. And the messages that she's gotten out from the outside world are literally the same messages that I've gotten in reverse, right? She's not enough. I'm too much. So, sorry, this as I start to get a little teary. I know that, and I'm hoping that you all, whether you are more like Tawney or more like me or not like any of us at all, that you're able to hear the message without killing the messenger. You're able to come to the place where you recognize that we're mirrors for you and what wounds are stopping you from growing in the ways you need to grow to have better business, better relationships, and a better life. And we all hit upper limits. I'm in one. I'm literally in one. But Tawny's raising her hand too. I'm in one. And when you understand and have tools to work through what's happening versus what I could say right now is nothing works. I'm a failure. No, none of it works anymore. I don't know what I'm doing. I should just quit. If I get to that place, that's because I don't understand what's actually happening. I'm literally growing to a place where, with this book, with what I've created over the last 7 years, with my blood, sweat, and tears, I was in Sedona, and my roommate, who had never met me, I mean, I did come on like a fire hose. I'm not gonna lie. I saw her. She walked in the door, and I never shut up. And because I wanted to work out my stuff before I got on stage, and at the end of the 2 days, she hugged me goodbye and said, "Thank you so much. I really feel your deep love for humanity." And in that moment, as she left, and I was just still coming down from being on stage for 30 minutes to 20 minutes of an interview and then 10 minutes. And that it's after she left that I really went, oh my God, I am so happy that she feels that, because most people react to the confidence, react to the speed, react to the intensity, and they dismiss me and they go, oh, you're all about yourself. You're arrogant. You celebrate yourself too much. And what is that really? What that really is that you don't celebrate yourself, period. That you can't stand to listen to someone actually honoring themselves because it triggers in you your inability to do it for yourself. We're all mirrors.
And I love this. And check out the if we post the video for this episode, JJ just sharing her tears and moving through those emotions. And I want to connect this back into the episode of having the hard conversations, because for me, what was really awesome was that I got triggered, right? I got triggered because I'm like gossip. I got triggered because I'm like, even for a moment, I was like, whoa, you're coming off intense. We don't know each other that well, right? And when JJ and I got on the call, I literally could feel her energy because she said she was addressing my concerns, right? But at the same time, just the one thing you said was, I'm tender right now. And that shifted everything inside of that conversation with me, because what was getting pulled for was safety, was trust, was I can feel how I'm feeling. You can feel how you're feeling. We did not want to hurt each other. We were not trying to defend our position. We were not trying to blame or anything. It was like both of us got to feel what we needed. And like literally by you being so authentic in that moment, because I think you said something along the lines of like, I'm tender right now. Like this is kind of like the cherry on the top. Like you've heard this before. And so what came for me was like, I don't want to be a mirror that validates that she's too much. I don't want to be a mirror that validates she has to shift, change, silence, be some other way. Because if that's what other people are doing to her, that's not what the fuck I'm committed to for anybody. And I'm not going to. And so it shifted how I showed up, because she was being so real, so authentic. And I got to choose what kind of mirror I wanted to be. And the mirror that, hopefully that it communicated, which I think it has, is, you know what? You don't have to change. I'm going to accept you and love you for how we are. And we'll come up with a whole game plan. And I think that's the priceless moment of what happens when we actually understand that we are each other's mirrors, because I can't tell you how amazing that feeling is. Because imagine if I just got triggered, we had an argument, we defended, I didn't listen, I didn't care what she was saying, because of all of these past events that maybe have happened. I would have killed her off, and then no more podcasts, no more. I didn't get to feel safe or heard or seen. But because we both understood what, the relationship is, we're here to mirror each other. We actually got to experience safety, being heard, being seen, and what that is like to navigate hardships, because we're still going to. Every freaking relationship, you are going to have a hardship. But I also don't think it has to be the normal, you're fighting, there's disconnect, there's no validating each other. You can have hard freaking feelings with other people in community and business and partnerships, relationships, friendships, whatever, without hurting another person, and still holding space that you can be seen and heard, they can be seen and heard, and then it like deepens the relationship. That's what I'm down for. Um and the point I want to pull in here is, let the right women trigger you. Okay, so I think there's also that clarification. There's so many women in the world. If you are clear on who you are, you will attract women that are in alignment with that. I feel safe to let JJ trigger me. I'm down for her to say things, do things, because I feel safe to bring that trigger to her, because I'm not going to blame her. It's not actually her problem. I have full emotional intelligence that a lot of my triggers are coming from past shit, and she just happens to be here to safely let me work through it. Because what a great fucking human being to get triggered by, and I get to talk through it. That is amazing, because she's not going to abuse me, yell at me, scream at me, push me down. No, she's going to ask me the questions that need to be asked. So the right women should trigger you in safety. The right people should trigger you. I want to take a pause there. JJ, anything flowing for you?
Yeah. You know, when you've done a lot of work, and that's in part why you and I are able to have these conversations so easily and at the beginning of our relationship. You mentioned, obviously there's an age difference and there's an experience difference with different things in life, of course, where we are, what we've both done, it's just different. It's not better, it's not worse, it just is. And when but here's where we're real clear is that while it's been different kinds of work, you've done a lot of work. And because you've done a lot of work, you understand your emotional inner world and because of your peacemaker energy and chart, you're not about blaming. However, someone like me or someone closer to me who has more fire energy, who has less air or less, Libra in them, are going to be blaming because the way their triggers were done in their lives. That's what I'm writing about. I'm writing a book about core wounds. So, and how to rewire your core wound patterns. And if you don't understand that you have those patterns, then you just think you're defending yourself and you're not as schooled as to understand why and how do I deal with this differently. And because women are so powerful, our emotions are so powerful because we express them more than we repress them mostly, right? Men are afraid of their emotions, deathly, which is why they normally have different kinds of ailments and diseases from repressing their emotions. But they're also not necessarily built, right? The masculine is not necessarily built to consider emotions because it's linear, it's left brain, it's get the thing done, and versus the creativity and the allowing, which is our life experience. It's why we came down to have all these wonderful, juicy emotions. And women, both from a man's perspective and other women, if you're someone who lets leash, like you let go of all your emotions and your intention is to feel better by blaming others, you become unsafe. My marriage was unsafe for my ex-husband because I kept wanting to fix him. I wanted to help him, right? But I didn't understand Because what he wanted from me was to say that you're right, it's all my fault, which I wasn't going to do because it wasn't my fault. I educated him to understand that all of the things he was reacting to was because I triggered in him things his mother put in there. I didn't put them there. I therefore, to me, while I'll do the best I can to change and grow and take responsibility for what I'm doing, it's not my responsibility that those are there. It's yours. And I'll be here to work through anything you want to work through, but he didn't want to work through anything. All right. So I did what I needed to do to change me, to grow me, to heal me. I did everything I possibly could have. And starting the podcast, 2 years, all these experts and guests and methods and modalities and workshops and therapies and treatments. But it wasn't because I was broken or wrong. It was because I understood that I attracted him to heal and he attracted me to heal. So I rolled up my sleeves and said, let's do it. Let's heal. There's nobody to blame here. We could compare notes and say one's a little bit more, traumatized than the other person, but why? It doesn't matter. I picked you. So we are equal in that we have something to heal. Let's be responsible about healing ourselves, and then let's try to put it in relationship. When women come together, and it's so funny, one of my members in a lot of my programs this year, she was never taught that women were safe. Women were always unsafe. And when you think about like why? And why is that? Well, it's because when a woman gets upset and we have no responsibility and we're in victim and we're blaming, we are very powerful and scary. If we take all that negative emotion and want to blame you, it's almost worse than someone stabbing you. A stab wound can heal, right? Some of the things that people say and do and the way they treat you can trigger all those wounds. So, realizing that why women are quiet, why they aren't direct, why they don't ask for what they need is because we're in a construct and a framework of that other people are responsible for how you feel. I knew when I started this with Tawney that there was a chance at some point that there would be like, this isn't going to work out. You're really not for me. And I knew that going in, didn't realize it might come up so soon within like 2 episodes of interviewing other people. But I knew that. But I thought, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm excited and we'll see where this goes. But my heart's in the right place. So and I know it does take time. My roommate, when she left, I spent 2 days with her, 2 days with a lot of talking. And when she said she could feel my heart, she could feel my love for humanity, I was like, okay, great. And it took a long time and many words to get there. So I understand that at first, I had a client once who listened to my podcast. It was mostly law of attraction at the time. And I think he was going through a breakup and he said he's gay and he was listening to the podcast and he heard me say, you're the creator of your own reality. He went, no, no, no. Don't you tell me that I made this happen. I am not. I triggered him so bad. He stopped listening. And then he drove from, I think, New York to Arizona. And I don't know what the time span was from the first time. He was like, nope, not listening to her. And then he started to listen. He binged. He's like, okay. And then he became a super fan because he was ready to hear it. And it wasn't, I don't know who I'm talking to. Well, you and I are having this conversation. I can't see who's on the other side listening to this. What I used to say to my ex when he would get triggered, which was often, and be yelling and screaming, I would get him in a calm moment. And I say, can I ask you a question? Do you believe that I have an intention to upset you and to hurt your feelings? He said, no. I said, great. Can you maybe remember that next time you get triggered, that I am not trying. In fact, nobody is trying to hurt your feelings. Like Tawney, you had said it on a podcast. I don't know which one it was, but you had something like, I'm not here to hurt anybody. I'm not here to trigger anybody. And I thought, yeah, but you're gonna. And it's not. And as long as we keep the conversation going so people can take responsibility for that, and own where they're triggered. I invite you to take not you, but everybody listening, the observer perspective of when you're triggered, like why? Like ask 10 or 12 whys. Well, I don't like her. She's too abrasive. I'm going to talk about me for a second. And this may not be true for you. But okay, she's loud. She's way too talkative and she thinks she knows everything. I don't like her confidence, which is arrogance to me, and she won't shut up. Okay. Is there anything in that maybe you want a little more of? That maybe this might be triggering something in you that you wish you had. Because here's what happens. Here's the truth of a trigger. The trigger has two sides to it. One, it's a mirror of what's going on for the other person. And there's a part of you that also believes it might be true. When someone says to me, I think we covered this maybe on that hard conversation show, but if someone was to say to me, JJ, you seem really like uninterested, like in life, and you're kind of lazy. And I would listen and I'd be like, that's interesting. And nothing would happen emotionally for me because I know that it's so far from the truth of who I am that it doesn't resonate at all. Now, if someone was to say to me, now, you talk too much, you think you know everything, and your confidence is really annoying to me. I would probably maybe feel a little bit badly about that for half a second because I don't do it for myself, literally. I do it because it changes lives, and I keep doing it because it keeps changing lives, and I love that, and I want to help people, and I wanted to be helped, and I still want to be helped. So I might hurt my feelings for a second, but I'd say that's because I believe it. It's a problem because I believe it and it hurts. It resonates with something that I don't like or I fear about myself. That's the truth. When you are in alignment with what you believe, it doesn't matter what everyone else believes. But if it hits a wound in you of something you're secretly afraid of, I think I said this on the show years ago when I started doing more emotional work on the show. The day came and somebody, because my ex-husband used to say, "You're not qualified to say that." Because I was hitting the nail on the head every time, and he hated it because that meant he would have to do something about it. But even though I knew that, even though I understood where it was coming from, his reaction of defending himself, I knew that that was getting into my subconscious. So then one day, the first time someone on the show said on a review said, "JJ's not a therapist." I was like, oh. And then I now if someone would say that, I said, "Yes, I am not. You are absolutely right. I am not, and I am proud to be me and do what I do." I know there are wonderful therapists in the world, and we do different things, right? So, but I had to first be triggered to do the work, to love myself and accept myself and know my lane of what I do and what I don't do and what I don't want to do. But that's all a lesson. It's a lesson in boundaries, it's a lesson in clarity, it's a lesson in self-acceptance. And when someone, there's another layer of trigger too. I may remind you of somebody, or Tawney may remind you of somebody you have a bad past with, and maybe you don't even like, you're not even making the connection. My ex-husband's friends, there's a couple. One is very American, English speaking only, and he married a Colombian, where Spanish is her first language. And for a long time, and I'm sorry that I'm gonna say this, hope you guys won't judge me for it, just allow me to have my opinion. I don't like country music. In fact, I hate country music, most of it. And here's why, but because I couldn't articulate it. I was like, why can't I articulate? I just don't like it. It doesn't feel good to me. And I'm a salsa dancer. And there's a salsa song about coffee and milk. Now, if you were to hear that song, it's called Cafe en Leche, Cafe en Leche. And they're like so happy. Just listen to the vibration, like cafe and milk, cafe and leche. Like they're so happy about their coffee and milk. It's a simple, it's a simple subject matter, which is what I don't like about country. But for the longest time, I couldn't articulate why I didn't like it. Because I do like some songs. I've gone to Garth Brooks. I've got, there are some country artists that I like, but generally I don't like country music. So it wasn't until Rosanna said to me, so the English version of ABCs is A, B, C, D, E, F, G. And then the Spanish version is like, we're excited about learning our ABCs. And I was like, oh, there it is. That's why I don't like country music, because there's an undertone of depression, of sadness, of frustration. My car died, my dog died, my wife left me. I'm like, okay, no, I am not in resonance with this. Okay. So, but it took me years to uncover how to explain why I didn't like something. But I did wonder, why don't I like that? Well, because it doesn't resonate with me, because all the songs I was hearing felt like really whiny and real victimy and real like blame the world and go scratch his car or whatever. And I'm like, okay, I'm not into that. It doesn't resonate. So I say that only as you may not like something and you're okay with that. But I'd invite you to ask why you don't like it, just so that you can understand its workings, because not everything is the same color. There are country songs that are very uplifting and positive and artistic, and not so dog died poetry and car died, truck died, whatever. Like I can get over that, right? But I love knowing and being able to identify what is it in me that's happening that says I either resonate with this or I don't resonate with this. Because then you get to decide, do I do something about that? Do I have to like country music? Should I like country music? I don't think it matters if I like country music in general for the rest of my life. However, in business, if I can't get comfortable with people don't not liking me, then I can't grow as a business owner. I cannot put my message into the world with a fear of not being able to handle negative comments, which is exactly where I'm going right now. It is really, and I saw that in myself last week in Sedona when I'm in a room full of people that don't know me. And I wasn't trying to sell them anything or do anything, but there is a part of me that wants to have an impact. That's why I speak. I don't need to go speak for myself. So part of me wanted to get them all excited about something. And that's how I see if it's effective. What I'm saying, I'm using my words and my energy to help change lives. I really, otherwise, would be fine just go working at the whatever. I could go get a different job and not do what I'm doing, but I am on this planet as a messenger, as a communicator, as a motivator. That is what I'm here to do. I'm 100% clear on that. But at the same time, I cannot grow. I cannot get bigger. I cannot be more successful if I cannot handle the ones that are going to be super fucking triggered by me.
I think that's the importance of knowing yourself, creating a way to be with yourself, because the triggers are just communicating where you need a little time, energy, love, and support by you. You know, we talk about in the community, yes, Ventura County business women. I'm taking the stance that you go try to create a business. You're going to pull up a whole bunch of triggers about everything, most likely. And so most people can't handle the triggers. And I think that's why women are dangerous, is that they're not in a position of emotional intelligence. No one has taught them the difference between their emotions. Go check out that feelings list. I'll include it in the notes from the previous episode that JJ did with the feelings list. Most people can't even tell the difference between those in their body. So then it's in constant fear, lack, survival, resentment, guilt, shame, suppression, silencing, projection, killing other people off, because it's hard to be with what's happening in the internal world. Hence why I say, if you're going to start a business, if you're a human being, you got to know how to navigate inner work. And inner work to me is just, do you know yourself? Do you know the parts that hurt still? Do you know why you act and think and feel certain ways based on things that you have experienced in your life? And then what are you doing to not let those run the show? Because I think most people can't be with themselves. They don't want to feel the feelings, think through the things, move them from, I call it survival mode, you know, to, oh, actually, no, I'm safe. I'm provided for. I can do anything. Let's go make it happen. I think people get stuck in the bullshit feelings. And then here we are with weird relationships with our partners, weird relationships when we're going to community, weird relationships, you know, in business and clients and sales. So I think it is such a benefit for us kind of normalizing it is part of the human experience to be triggered. And if you put systems in place for yourself to know why you get triggered, how do you behave when you get triggered? I know how I used to behave before I had like my discipline and my systems that actually nurtured me. Um, I was like hella overweight every time. Anytime I have been in really like in deep in my survival mode, I'm like 200 pounds. I am so fearful of the world, cut off from my truth. My past things of how I was navigating, yelling, screaming, breaking things, chaotic, not talking to my family. That's how I would behave in survival mode, because I literally could not be with the feelings. So I would act out in certain ways. Now I've moved from a space of, I enjoy being triggered. I enjoy it. It hurts. It's uncomfortable, but I enjoy it for the sense of, I have now a relationship with Tawney that when life hits, I can come into my room. I'm looking at my room right now. I can come into my room, feel all of the feelings. What is the trigger trying to tell me? What am I upset about? What is it about me, not them? I'm not getting distracted. To me, that is such a waste of time. I am not going to sit there and be like, why are they doing this to me? That's like so fucking besides the point, right? For me in my journey. So I want to go quickly into, what is it showing me? Why would this other person be bringing this to me so I can get it out of my body? Because it was already freaking there. That's how it can be a trigger. There's already something in there that I have been storing in my body. And so if I go sit in my room, I cry it out, feel it out, move it out. I like to dance, cry, be held, right? Sometimes I need some extra support when I'm feeling a little weak. So maybe my husband will give me a hug, or I gotta call my mama, right? Um, I learned so much about myself. I learned where I did need a little bit more attention. I learn about, it feels good to cry. It feels good to just get it out. It feels good to move my body. And now I'm in this position with triggers when shit happens because like, yeah, I might be disciplined, but I'm telling you, I'm getting triggered every freaking day. I am up to big things. Like so is JJ, those upper limits, right? Like we're constantly looking at, okay, what is keeping us stuck, stagnant in survival mode? What can I do about it? Clearing it out, using our discipline. So it is constantly being triggered, working through these things so we can keep expanding. Um, Let me think my thought. Oh, that felt so freaking good. So now I'm in a space with the triggers where move through all these spaces. You tend to where you're hurt. You breathe through it, and then you come back to this whole other side of like, I'm not spending months, weeks in weird feelings. I move through it so fast. I move through the triggers so fast because my body, my nervous system trusts that at the same time as I'm going to feel the trigger and hear the feelings, I don't like this, I'm fearful, I'm scared, what are they going to do? What will happen? The typical stuff. There's also another part of me, which is my discipline, that is also affirming, Tawney, you're okay. Nothing actually bad ever happens. You have support. You're provided for. You know how to breathe through it. Everything works out. So there's, yes, at the same time have the trigger, but there's also that part of you where it's like, you got to work through the trigger. And that's where I always go back to that you are your own healer. Yes, like you can go use frameworks and modalities, but they all point to you having to go be with yourself. So you might as well go sit quiet and be with yourself and listen and strengthen that inner connection. And why does that make a difference? Because if that is not solid, then you're walking into like, those partnerships, they get so wonky, and then you're angry, and then like what happens when you're around your kids because you're not tapped in, tuned in, and and then you're not delivering what you're actually here for. And then quite frankly, in my personal life, I say this a lot, is like, then we just die. So most of us are living out of survival mode, fear, worry, and concern because of other people, but it's your life experience. So there's also that part of like triggers are supposed to inform you, not stop you from going after the life that you love. Um, yeah, like let the trigger go, let it happen. Um, and so I think connecting back to, why are women dangerous is we keep killing each other off, because we don't want to deal with our own insecurities and our own fear. And then we make it about somebody else. And then when you do that, when you put it's somebody else or some other thing, then you're not doing your inner work to it. And the pattern just keeps happening. And I see this a lot, quite frankly, in the Ventura County business women community, because I'm on deck. People do tell me when there is discord. They reach out to me to help mediate disconnect, and I am about it because women are so quick to be like, fuck you, I'm done, I'm not talking to you, or you're a bad business owner, like whatever, right? And I come in and have these conversations, not saying I do not want to do this all the time, but creating a community of like, get in the habit of slowing down and talking shit out with people. And again, use your emotional intelligence and your intuition for who the right people are. But I think we can do way better in community. We could do way better in business. We could do way better in the world if women started slowing down, honoring who they are, get freaking in control of your trauma so you're not keep adding it into the world, and tapping into your gifts of why you're here, and then go share that with other human beings. Like, And I'm trying to take the case of like, I don't care if people trigger me because I want to slow down, do my inner work, but also with them in a safe capacity of like, baby, I ain't going nowhere. Like, I'm down to have a hard convo and I'm not going to kill you off. And that changes the game for people. Like, other people might, I've had experiences, where, community members, they had, altercation, competition, scared that they don't like each other. And we get on the phone, I individually with each of them, and I'm like, dude, can we just like take the consideration that like they're going through shit just like you just shared you're going through shit? And then, we get to a point where we had a lunch meeting. It was these two gals and me, and they got to chat it out. They said what the fuck they were quote unquote angry about and what was going on, but it was a safe container. They still got to respect each other. And they ended up like opening up. Both of these women were moving through some like really fucking heavy family stuff. And somehow it kind of, that was their outlet, was fighting between each other. And so when they got fucking real about that and they started getting responsible of like, dude, I'm actually just at max capacity. Nobody's fucking helping me. They were in similar industries. So there was like, you're doing better than me and I don't have what you have, right? And then they start telling the truth of like, oh shit, they're actually in the same position, feeling the same freaking things with different stories. And then they slowed down, took a breath, and started offering each other like compassion and listening and understanding. And do they need to be best friends? No. But the power of giving somebody space and affirmation that they're safe and you're not going to hurt them and abandon them and, whatever, that fucking moves mountains inside of people. So there's also that invitation for women, level up, because there is a lot of women that do not have powerful role models. They don't have women that are in there saying, you know what, yes, you may have done certain things, but you're not stuck that way. Empower them, give them affirmation that they can do whatever. We need more women that are tapped in doing that in community for themselves and others. Yes, queen, as my kids say.
I know I mentioned this on the Hard Conversation show and maybe somewhere else, but I'm going to mention it again. I'm feeling maybe a need, a desire, and you don't have to do it, Tawny, if you don't want to, because you run all the other things because you're doing lots. But if anyone's interested in doing like a support group, maybe it's a 2 or 3 hour gathering and we just sort of get real and have it be like again, it's an emotional support group for whatever's going on with you. And I have some tools besides the feelings and needs list to help people identify what's actually going on with them. I find it interesting that they wanted you to mediate two people who are in the group who are having issues. I'm glad that, because that's not really your role. I hope they paid you for it. But
The
I
funny
know.
is it's no one asked me.
Oh,
No one,
no one
no
asked you.
no one
You
asked.
just said, "Hey, I'm gonna be the peacekeeper. I'm gonna come grab you. I'm gonna grab you, and we're gonna have a sit down." Which
Well,
I
it's like that invitation, it's the, hey, are you, because people, again, the ones that reach out to me in those kinds of cases is because they actually don't want it to be that way. They don't want to have discord. They don't want to have conflict. Nobody freaking wants that. Like, everyone wants to feel loved and belong and freaking accepted. So they tell me what happens and I give a fuck. I care what people are experiencing. Obviously, I don't want it to be like everyone's bombarding me, but I think the community fucking is respectable. They understand, right? They bring me the stuff that they don't know how to navigate, and I can simply just be that mirror, that invitation of like, yeah, you could, I mean, how do you want to handle this? Do you want to kill them off and do the ordinary basic freaking thing? Or you want to take a breath, tap into who you really are, your magic, your power? You want to do something fucking nuts and maybe we have a bomb ass convo and you shift this whole thing around. And do I know if that shit's going to work? Nope. Have no idea. But if somebody else on the other line is down for that, and then this other girl is down for that, that is worth me getting uncomfortable. I get triggered about even having to do that. Like, I don't have anything better to do except mediate conflict. Like, not, no, don't want that. But I am down to do that, work through whatever emotions I have to within my boundaries to support people having their own hard conversations with love, respect, intention. And like, dude, we need community, we need authentic combos. That's what we need in the world. So I'm down to facilitate and show up where I can. But I'm learning too.
So I have a script that I'm happy to give to people. And although you really need to understand why it works and how it works. So the couples therapy that I then took the exercise and developed a program and a process that then now I'm writing a book about. The couples therapy is called Imago therapy, developed by Harville Hendricks and Helen Kelly Hunt. Within Imago therapy, there's a couples dialogue. That couples dialogue has been extracted from that book from them and also created into something called safe conversations. They have a whole movement about safe conversations. You can get certified to be a safe conversation. They have it in all churches and schools and businesses. They want to affect the entire world with safe conversations. Their most recent book is called How to Talk to Anyone About Anything. It's literally the same couples dialogue. And I'd be happy to, in a group situation, whether it be on Zoom or in person, preferably in person, but I'm happy to do it on Zoom, facilitate how people can use this both in their relationships with their spouses, as well as friends, their children, and anyone else in this community. What it does is it automatically creates safety, automatically, because you're following the script. Now, the script may feel like I have to really read from this. No, it just prompts the questions, but it allows one person to be the receiver and one person to be the sender. And it takes you through some other things that you want to do, like acknowledge them, breathe with them, maybe you hug them. But and you don't have to do those pieces, but they are important to ground you and center you. But it's also leads you back to within the script, it leads you back to when in your life, whatever's going on with said person has happened before. When's the first time in your life that that ever upset you? And it starts to educate you on that whatever's going on right now is not rooted in what's going on right now. It has a past and you're pulling it forward for whatever reason. And I also think doing something around the feelings, and you're going to get to experience some of this next week at my event, and then we can talk about it more here on the show. And within Ventura County Businesswomen, if you want to do a meetup on a Saturday, we'll do a mini workshop, and it could be a 3 hour, and we do these tools, and we give them to people, and we say, hey, please use them. And because even if you love doing it, which as a peacemaker, I can see you growing into being a good mediator, you do not have time to mediate 250 people in this group. All right. And that is not emotional responsibility either, Miss Rescuer, right? That is also saying it's your group. So I get it, right? Like I would do it with my clients. But we want to encourage responsibility. We want to encourage, please learn this on your own. Not because it's going to make our community more comfortable. It's going to make your life more comfortable. It's going to make your relationships better. It's going to make you more clear, because there's also the combination of I'm having this thing come up for me and I'm triggered and I need things and I don't know how to articulate that because I actually don't know what they are and I'm blaming you and I'm projecting onto you. There's those layers. But then there's also the layer of like, what do I need and how do I get my own needs met? Forget everybody else. Yesterday, as of recording of I'm actually hosting a full moon ceremony tonight because yesterday I was recording a podcast with Healing the Mother Wound gals, and I wanted to do it on the full moon. Yesterday, I had a conversation with my mother about my parents coming to visit, which they were planning on it. My love language is quality time, and my biggest core wound is devalued. Okay, so not coming to visit me and not showing up for me, big deal. That doesn't mean that they have to perform for love for me or they have to do this to satisfy me. It's just knowing sort of the point of view that I have. So I really wanted them to come out. My dad just had a heart thing, and I really wanted them to come out for a lot longer. When they said we want to spend the holidays next year with you, I'm like, oh my God, come out for Thanksgiving and Hanukkah and Christmas and New Year's and all my parties and the block party and the right. Like I'm here, I'm having them here for like 2 months. My dad doesn't leave home for more than a week. He hates getting on a plane. He hasn't been to California in 8 years. So here I am thinking, oh, I'm going to guilt trip them. I don't care what method I have to use. I'm going to make them stay for as long as I want them to stay. And at this point, it was literally just going to be the 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks, a little over 2 weeks. And I said to my mother yesterday, because they're ready to buy their ticket. And she goes, well, we're not staying for the time that you want us to. And of course, it's a full moon in Aries, which is to me shit or get off the pot. And I was like, are you fucking kidding me? I said, what are you going home for? What do you need? And I know it's my dad. He's very, very Taurusy. He's a Cancer. He needs his ritual. He's 80. Okay. He doesn't want to be away from home. He doesn't want to be away from his routine. He doesn't want to feel uncomfortable. I understand all that. However, it triggered me anyway. So she said, Jay, are we going to have a problem? And I said, or can I continue? I said, I'll call you tomorrow. I knew in that moment that I was too triggered to come back into compassion and I was going to need to take a beat. So I said, I'm going to call you tomorrow. And I got off the phone and I said something to Doug and I kind of got upset, but I did, I need to work through my own feelings. I know this isn't about them not loving me or not supporting me or any of that stuff. In fact, last week, one more little story. Last week I went to this event. It was a business women's event. And actually kind of like what you're doing with BCBW, the origin for me is another group that was started in Santa Monica 25 years ago. And I was a part of that in a different way. And I was with some of those ladies, and it's been 25 years. And we went around the circle and we talked about like what was real for us, like what emotions we were having and what did we want to release. And in that space, I was uncomfortable a little bit. I'm doing something very different than I was 25 years ago. I am different than I was 25 years ago. And I've seen some of these women prior to that and some of the women I didn't know. But I watched myself be really uncomfortable at times, but breathe into that. And to say, I want this conversation, but I don't know if these are the right people to have it with. I don't know if there's a deep resonance around here. Maybe there is, maybe there isn't. Am I willing to try? Sure, I'm here. I watched myself go through, but what I did was, as we did this one exercise, which Christine makes up shit like I do, like you feel into like what's going on right now, what do people need? So each person wrote on a piece of paper that dissolves in the water what you were going to release. And so everybody in the circle stood up and put into the water whatever they were going to release. And I watched everybody do it and not really, again, be connected. And because I run my own events and I love running my own events and I love facilitating things like this, I asked for what I needed. And I didn't tell everybody else what they needed. I just said, okay, when I stood up, I said, I'm going to ask for something different. I want you all to stand up and I want you all to hold hands. And as I put this in here, I'm going to go around, I'm going to hug each and every one of you because I wanted to create connection. I wanted to break the separation energy that was happening in the room for me. And someone could have said no. In fact, one of my clients, she was like, I'm not ready, no, because she was mad at me. I sat next to someone who I knew was mad at me and next to someone else who she got to be mad at me too. I sat in a room that was severely uncomfortable for me because I knew people were upset as I had my own feelings. I'm a human. Nobody tend to take that into consideration, right? And I thought, all right, here I am going to breathe through being uncomfortable, allowing myself to ask for what I need, not blame anybody, not be upset with anybody, not even Tawney, needing to work it out. That's what I want to get to right now about this. I asked for what I needed. I attended to my own needs. I know what my needs are. And I assess regularly through, okay, what is called for right now? Do I need to clear the air? Do we need to have a conversation? I don't think we do because we're on completely different pages and it's totally okay. I'm going to let it be what it's going to be and I don't have to fix it, solve it, name it. It just is. I just have to check in with who I am and what's going on for me right now. I'm getting triggered about being devalued and I'm going to decide to accept myself. And this is what some of the languaging around what we're talking about is. Yeah, we're talking about pretty deep, like emotional work. And some of you are like, I just want to have a business and make some money. Yeah, that's totally cool. And for those of you that recognize as women that your emotional powerhouse energizes and fuels everything you attract and everything you do, it's good to maybe kind of like clean that up a little bit, even understand it, and then know what's next for you. So whether it be, I know you aren't necessarily, you do your business the way you do business, but I do business like this is what I do. And if you're not interested in working with me personally or any of my groups or whatever, that's totally fine. But I'm feeling a need to want to start this conversation because Tawney wants to start it. Otherwise we wouldn't be having this conversation right now. So let us know if this is something in BCBW, again, whether it be on Zoom or in person would be much, much, much better. For us to just start throwing down some of these conversations, like what are you struggling with? So that way you can get more than just, I asked you, and you cited that early on in this podcast, when I spoke at in Ojai, I wanted everyone else to speak. And so I asked you if you would mind, can we take out one of these 15-minute table talks that you have and ask everybody else to stand up and speak? Because I'm talking about visibility and I want them to feel visible and want them to be seen and heard. And I want to connect with the women in the room and I want to know who they are. And I want everyone to have a voice. I want everyone to stop hiding. And that's what we did. And you loved it. Right. And you could have said no. You'd be like, no, bitch, don't take over. It's my group. But you didn't. It was a suggestion. You tried it. And so, this works because we can both ask for what we want. I asked you for a pizza on the launch day. You're like, how can I support you? I'm like, can you just buy me a pizza? Like, there's nothing I'm going to be able to eat there. We didn't ask any of our sponsors to do gluten-free things. And so I kind of knew walking into the party, I'm like, I'm not gonna be able to eat anything here. And so I wanted to be a little taken care of. So I appreciate that you responded to that. But I asked, and you know what? Many women don't. You don't ask for what you need. You don't even know what you need. You just know you don't feel good. And then you start yelling and screaming at people and hoping that's going to feel better. And it's a temporary fix to a bigger situation. And while VCBW, it does not have to, nor will it turn into group therapy or into, the personal work necessarily. But maybe there's an element we can add there where people who are struggling with something, who don't work with anybody, who can't afford it or don't know where to go or have no idea of the languaging around any of this can start. And maybe that's a place that we could provide sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely, because it's cool to work out hard things inside. Like, yes, you need to be your own, I say healer, but insert your own. Just know yourself, take care of yourself, tend to yourself. But also at the same time, that shit gets lovely too. Like, God, how much time when going into the thick of it, of my inner work, really learning how to integrate. How do I really move from survival to back into like, no, I'm good. I'm in my power. um spending I spent a lot of time in quiet, in solitude, and that was very beneficial. I highly recommend it. Now I'm in a space though where I'm like, dude, I'm tired of healing by myself. Like, I want to share. I want to be in community. I want to say, here's what I'm navigating and hear what someone else is navigating, and be in support. And again, that's why we're standing for authentic conversations. Tell me one person, comment right now on the podcast or somewhere, that your life is completely perfect, everything's great and Gucci. Let me know, because I haven't found somebody yet. Like, I have not found one person that is just immaculate everywhere and they're like, there's nothing I need to tend to. So I think there again is normalizing. Everybody is going through something. They are navigating hard thoughts, hard feelings, hard situations. And I'm taking the stance that if we take care of ourselves and there's enough emotionally intelligent people tending to themselves, the way we experience community, it's not going to be awkward. Like, oh my God, do you like me? Not like me? Competition? Not sure. Do I belong? Are you like, it's so bullshit. Yuck. I'm here to have conversations where women get in, and I'm saying women because that's what we're dealing with at the moment. Imagine, I'm thinking of CNC. Imagine 50 women walk into a room and every single one of them had tended to themselves that day, or prior, and they're like, they know who they are, they know their struggles still, they know what they need, what they don't like. Imagine what that room would feel like. So instead of women coming in with fear, survival, projections, and then leaving all small, separated, you have women walking in with clarity, confidence, ownership, self expression. The conversations hit differently. Then women are talking about play, pleasure, and possibility. And so let people trigger you, figure out how to move through that trigger powerfully, and then show up and go do that, knowing that other people get triggered. And don't make it a big deal. Empower them to love themselves and work through the trigger too. So I think that starts that ripple effect in community. And I think it's possible. I think it's happening in at least in Ventura County businesswomen, slowly but surely. But I'm here for the long haul. I got time.
Yeah. Well, it's an exciting time. And I hope something today moved you in a way that create some clarity or curiosity around what you can do for yourself. Again, I'm going to invite you to, I deal with this on my show on Spirit, Purpose, and Energy. Literally, I'm obsessed with this conversation, with everything that is self-growth, everything that is understanding emotion, everything that is about healing triggers and wounds, everything about creating connection and safety. And I invite you to listen to Spirit, Purpose, and Energy and just go back and see if there's anything that you find interesting. And then if I'm not the person for you, go find somebody else. Type in the podcast, I'm looking for this, and find somebody who you resonate with. There are plenty of people in this community who also do emotional work and spiritual work and stuff like that. So find somebody. The point is just don't be in reactive mode. Don't be in victim mode. Be proactive. Your life, your business, your family, your friends, your connections need you to be clear and curious.
Absolutely. And there's too many connections, too many resources, too much at our fingertips to sit back and just let life happen. We got a short period of time, I think, as a human body. So all the survival and distractions, feel it, hear it. But what you're here to do, the possibilities we get to create, is so worth the fight for. So figure out what you need and go make it happen.
And let us know how we can help you.